Good afternoon. Welcome to Long Live Third Parties Podcast. Free Press Media Press Inc., a third parties books publisher, sponsors this podcast. I'm Andrew Bouchard.
Greetings, Madelyn. Welcome to the Long Live Third Parties Podcast.
Oh, greetings to you too. Thank you for inviting me on.
We're glad to have you.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. We're glad to have you. Folks, today we have Madelyn Hoffman from the New Jersey Green Party. She is running for governor in New Jersey. So welcome.
Again, thank you so much. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Excellent. If we could get started by yourself, you got involved in the Green Party.
Sure. Well, I guess you could call me a veteran at this, because I first was involved in a campaign as a Green in 1996. So we're talking about a good 25 years ago. I was asked by the Green Party of New Jersey to run for president of the United States, because 1996 was the year that Ralph Nader first ran for president. And as I learned over the years, presidential races are a series of state races. So 50 state elections, not one federal election. And so, a candidate needs to decide, a non-Democratic Party or Republican Party candidate needs to decide what states they want to run in. And of course, if you only run in 2 or 3 states, you have no chance of winning. So the more states you run in, the better. And going back to 1996, the first time that Nader ran, nobody knew how many states he'd agree to run in. He had agreed to run in California, but that was it at the time. So I was invited to hold the spot for him as a candidate for president. But a couple of weeks later, I got another letter in my mailbox saying it wasn't needed. It wasn't necessary for me to run for president, that Nader had agreed to run in New Jersey. We drafted him to run in New Jersey, but could I please be his vice presidential favorite daughter candidate here in New Jersey? And I agreed to quickly. Somehow running for president just didn't seem appropriate for me at that time, but I might have done it if it had been necessary, but it wasn't, thank goodness. So 1996, I ran as Nader's vice presidential running mate in New Jersey. And the Greens of New Jersey invited me to do that because for almost 20 years, 15 to 20 years, I had been working on environmental issues in New Jersey, working with citizens groups throughout the state who were concerned about a polluting landfill or garbage incinerator or factory that was emitting toxics and stuff like that. So that was my claim to fame then, and why I was asked to run for VP with Ralph Nader in New Jersey. And then in 1997, that was the first time I ran for governor in New Jersey. I was fresh off of the excitement of running with Nader in 1996. In 1998, I ran for U.S. Congress, and I don't really talk about that race very much. And then I was 20 years, I was the director of a nonprofit peace organization in New Jersey and didn't do very much at all with electoral politics because I had to stay neutral. I couldn't be partisan and be the director of a nonprofit. So it wasn't until 2018 when my mom got sick and I needed to spend time with her, and I decided to resign from my position as director of the nonprofit peace organization, and space and time opened up, and I decided, after reconnecting with the Greens, and now I connected with the Greens on the environmental side of things, and also the Greens work for peace because of the work I'd been doing for almost 20 years. So it made sense. In 2018, I ran for U.S. Senate against Senator Menendez. And then in 2020, I ran again for U.S. Senate against Senator Cory Booker. And we got record-setting numbers for New Jersey Greens. We got just under 40,000 votes in New Jersey, and it was the second highest total for a statewide campaign, behind Nader's run in the year 2000 when he ran for president again in New Jersey. So fresh off that, we figured, as the Green Party, we really needed to build off of our success. Especially, it was a really tough year, 2020. The state was on lockdown for the whole time period, opened up just a little bit in June through November, but we wanted to build off those numbers. So here I am in 2021 running for New Jersey governor, kind of completing the circle from 1997. And who knows what'll happen after this, but I think this is, likely to be my last run for a while. Because it's hard work. It's exciting and exhilarating and important, but it's hard work.
So what campaign causes and issues is your run for governor focusing on?
Well, it's focusing on issues where we believe that Governor Murphy is weak and vulnerable. We are starting out. This is in really no particular order. All of these issues are very important, but number one is the issue of climate change and real green, eco-socialist Green New Deal. Governor Murphy ran on a promise back in 2017, sorry. And back in 2017, he ran on a promise to put New Jersey on a path towards 100% renewable energy, but he set that goal as 2050, and he projected that by 2030 we would be half of the way there, 50% of the way there. And I don't know how much you follow this issue, or how much your audience follows the issue, but many scientists and others are saying we don't have much more than 8 years, if that, to correct the problem with climate change, or not correct it, if not correct it, at least slow it down. And so the putting together a Green New Deal, a real Green New Deal, an eco-socialist Green New Deal is high on my list. And I can explain what that involves later if you want me to go into more detail. So that's one issue. A second issue is another one of Governor Murphy's campaign promises. He said within the first 100 days, cannabis would be legalized in New Jersey. And it is almost to the end of his term. And yes, there was a bill passed that just within the last month or so, really, that makes cannabis legal in New Jersey, but it has so many loopholes, problems. It doesn't do what it was designed to do. It doesn't allow for people who were picked up on possession charges, even during Governor Murphy's tenure so far, doesn't allow for their records to be expunged, doesn't allow for anybody's records to be expunged. If something was illegal and you got caught, but it's now legal, it makes sense that people's records should be expunged, especially anything that occurred within the last 3 years, because Murphy was promising throughout that entire time period to make it legal. So, but slow down for a whole variety of reasons. And so legalization of cannabis is and challenging Murphy on the way he has proceeded with that. That's another issue. The abolition of ICE and closure of private prisons is another. We just had a major scandal with Governor Murphy and the fellow who's the director of the Department of Corrections in New Jersey, which is leading to the shutdown of the women's prison in New Jersey. But there are so many other issues throughout other detention centers and prisons in New Jersey that the governor has been very weak on. He hasn't really asserted any leadership in that regard, or enough leadership, though people have been calling on him to do so. So we want to abolish ICE. We want to close down the ICE detention centers, and we want the people inside that were detained by ICE, we want them released, not transferred. It's one thing if you close down a facility here in New Jersey and then take that same person and transfer them to upstate New York. That's not really what we want. It's not at all what we want. We want the facilities to be shut down here, to be shut down in New York State, to be shut down across the country, and have those people who were detained by ICE released. The public health emergency of COVID is kind of waning a little bit, but for the entirety of 2020, just because there was an immigration violation didn't mean that people should be put inside of a detention center at close quarters without personal protective equipment, without hand sanitizer, or without knowledge of who's testing positive for COVID or not. It shouldn't have become a life sentence. You made a mistake. You served your time for something else. Now you're just being held until the immigration issues can be resolved. There was no reason to keep people detained. Let them out. Let people out so they could be with their families during this time. So anyway, that's a third issue. We're pushing and calling for a public bank, yet another one of Governor Murphy's promises that hasn't materialized at all. Let's see. Education, and the list goes on. But in terms of the environment, just to go back to that, there are some things that the governor has done that are questionable in terms of even making the very modest and unsatisfactory goal of being on 50% of our energy coming from renewables by 2030. He's pulled us back in certain directions, and we need to call him out on that. So I think I gave you enough to work with, right?
Certainly. You were talking about the Green New Deal. You said you might want to. Would you kindly explain more how you interpret the Green New Deal?
Yes, and one of the founding members of the Green Party, who was also our candidate for president in 2020, Howie Hawkins. He is the original author of the Green New Deal, or of a Green New Deal. And what makes his Green New Deal and the Green Party's Green New Deal different from anything being discussed by the Democrats is that it sets tighter guidelines. It and it requires an end to use of fossil fuels. So, it's not going to work to say you want the state to be on renewable energy and then give a permit to a pipeline or a second pipeline or a third pipeline. It's not going to work if permitting new power plants to be constructed. And the governor has waffled on some of these and given out some permits that he shouldn't have, if again the goal is to reach 100%, 50%, even 50% renewable by 2030. And as far as we're concerned, the Green New Deal should set that 100% renewable by 2030. We just don't have the time to wait. And the other part of so that's one side of a Green New Deal. At the same time that we're dealing with moving the society off of and away from fossil fuels, we're talking about creating an industry or recreating industry in such a way that whatever is produced sustainably, that whoever works at one of these industries or one of these factories is protected, one's health and safety is protected, that there's a workers' bill of rights. So, for example, during COVID-19, there were places like Amazon warehouses and fulfillment centers and meat packing plants out in the Midwest where people weren't given personal protective equipment, where people had to choose between going to work in what they considered to be a dangerous and unsanitary environment, or to stay home and not collect unemployment and not receive an income. These are not the kinds of choices that workers should be required to make. You should, if you are employed, you should have single payer, universal health care. So in the event of a pandemic or some other illness, that you becoming afflicted with some other kind of illness, you don't have to worry about how many paid sick days you've got, or if you've got adequate insurance coverage, or in the case of some 14 million American people in the United States, when they lost their jobs at the beginning of the pandemic, they also lost their health insurance. That's not sustainable, right? So whatever is being produced in these workplaces needs to be produced sustainably, and the people who are working there need to be protected. So it's a workers' bill of rights, and that would extend to other things like rent cancellations, mortgage cancellations. We don't know what's going to happen at the end of this month, when the moratorium on evictions could very, very possibly be lifted. There are millions of people who might be affected by that. That should not be. And then the last part of our Green New Deal, our eco-socialist Green New Deal, you see how ecology and workers' rights are built into that eco-socialist Green New Deal. The other part of that is we need to cut the military budget by a lot. 50%, perhaps 75%, depends on what green you talk to about how much it should be cut. But there's at least $740 billion with a B tied up in the military. If we cut the military budget by 50%. That gives us $370 billion that could be used to fund these kinds of programs I'm talking about, right? And then it would also, so we need public health care, if we need more personal protective equipment, if we need whatever, workers' comp, whatever it is we need to protect workers, there's money there to do it if we cut the military budget. Tuition-free college, student debt forgiveness or loan forgiveness, the moratorium on evictions and mortgage payments that could be subsidized, and people wouldn't wind up out in the streets, and we would live more peacefully. And the U.S. military is one of the largest institutional consumers of fossil fuels. So if we're talking about getting off fossil fuels, one thing we have to do is stop all these wars, and let people live around the world, let people live around the planet, and stop emitting greenhouse gases from the burning of fossil fuels, which is being done to gain us more access to oil. You see, it's kind of absurd, right? So that's the, in a nutshell, that's an eco-socialist Green New Deal. It's been, Howie Hawkins has had people researching it, attach budget figures, to it. And in the long run, it is much cheaper for us all, especially if you factor in the impact on climate change, which is driving a lot of youth right now to get involved and speak up and to be very dissatisfied with the Democrats and Republicans who can't even pass a watered down Green New Deal. The youth of today have a sense of urgency. We don't have any time left. There's an urgency, there's action that needs to be taken now, and the two mainstream political parties aren't willing to do it because they're beholden to the very same companies that are profiting from continued reliance on fossil fuels and military contracts.
Recently, I saw a story in your Instagram feed about you submitting your petitions to the state of New Jersey.
Yes.
So can you kindly ballot access efforts in New Jersey and what that entails?
Yes. This year was very different from last year. Last year, we needed to collect signatures during a pandemic when outdoor events were canceled, indoor events were canceled. It was quite a challenge last year. We were able to, with kind of a coalition of alternative political parties, third parties, we were able to receive the same privileges that the Democrats and Republicans received, which was to be able to collect signatures online, to be able to collect signatures electronically. We still did that this year. We submitted a total of 1,275 signatures, and about 266 or so were collected electronically, but over 1,000 signatures were collected by people taking them out to flea markets, farmers markets, Palestinian solidarity rallies. Where else did we go? Black Lives Matter rallies, shopping malls, the boardwalk at Asbury Park. in March and April, there weren't too many outdoor events. The restrictions hadn't been lifted yet. Plus, it was cold, so some of us stood on the boardwalk, and you know how cold it can be on the boardwalk when there's a cold wind coming off the ocean. Um, we had some extremely cold late afternoons and evenings, and then the last part of May, because we had to submit the petitions by primary day, which was yesterday. We submitted ours the day before. We always like to get in a day before in case there are problems that need to be addressed. That we still have a day if necessary. The last week or so, there was a fair in Asbury Park, with Ferris wheels and all kinds of rides, and we walked around there with clipboards and talked to people and asked them if they would be willing to sign our petitions. It's a very grassroots type effort. Some of the signature gatherers went door to door in their towns, and that was not at all possible last year, but it was possible this year. And just would say, I'm volunteering for the Hoffman for Governor campaign, and we need to submit 800 signatures of registered voters or eligible voters in New Jersey by Monday, June 7th. Could you help us get our candidate on the ballot? And a lot of people actually, if we got to talk to somebody, because sometimes, at a farmer's market, say in Highland Park or Collingswood or elsewhere, a lot of times people are in a hurry and they don't want to talk to you. But in the main, if we were able to talk to somebody, if they said, okay, how can I help you? What would you like to talk about? So I would say a good 7 out of 10 people would sign, because there is a real need out there expressed in public opinion polls and then backed up by our experience this year. People are not happy with the Democrats and Republicans. I had somebody say to me, oh, yes, of course I'll sign. I can't stand this so-called two-party system. It's not serving us. Then others who would say, I don't think I'm going to vote Green, but I do believe that there should be more choices on the ballot. We need to shake things up. It can't just be the Democrats and Republicans. So it was grueling, because we spent we did Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Oh, we even went to the punk rock flea market outside of Camden, or near Philadelphia. Not in Philadelphia. Where was it? I don't remember the town, but it was in South Jersey, in Camden County, I believe. We even went there, and one of our volunteers stood there for about 2.5 hours, got 77 signatures of people coming out. So, there is a strong sense that this system, the Democrats and Republicans, do not pass policies, legislation that actually are helping us all. And that was how I started with those 5 issues or so. Those are the issues that Governor Murphy promised to do something on, and he fell far short. So it was a grueling process, but it was a very educational process. We went places like Dover in Morris County, and we got signatures. Yes, we got some, but many people weren't registered to vote. And a couple of years ago, when we were in the Ironbound section of Newark, and there was a strong desire on the part of the government at that time to go after immigrants in this country, Yeah, people were frightened. They didn't want to sign our petitions. This year, people weren't so frightened, but you find out, you just learn about different groups of people in this state and what their needs are, and there's no substitute for talking to people directly. Um, any studies reveal one thing or another, but it's not the same as meeting people on the street. Oh, and I'll just end the answer to this question with a funny story. When we were in Dover, that was Saturday night, this past Saturday night, I was sitting on a bench because I was trying to call back one of the volunteers who had called me. And I'm sitting there, I'm wearing my Green Party t-shirt like I am now, but you can't see it. Um, um, Somebody got out of the car, a young man, maybe in his 20s, maybe in his early 30s, I'm not sure. He came up to me and he said, "Are you collecting signatures on petitions for governor?" I said, "Yeah, how did you know?" He said, "Well, I saw it on Instagram and you've got my vote." And he said, "I want to sign and my friend here will sign your petition too." That's when you really feel like you're making a difference.
Yes.
You publicize stuff and you don't know on social media. You really never know um, what the impact is. You see, X number of likes or comments, so you've reached people. But this person is a follower of ours on Instagram. I didn't ever see him comment on anything before, and he was able to recognize me from everything we sent out. Every time we went and collected signatures, we put an ad out there, a meme out there on social media, and we took photos of what we were doing and put those up too. And obviously it was enough so that somebody would recognize me on the street. So it was quite an undertaking, but so satisfying when we reached the 1275 certified signatures on Monday. And now we have to wait till this coming Monday because there could be a challenge filed at any point along the way. But we're required to submit 800 valid signatures with 1275. We hope that we have gathered enough signatures to discourage any challenges, because they'd have to disqualify at least almost 500 signatures. And we were very careful about how we collected them. We didn't, we feel confident that we would withstand any challenge. So hopefully, there won't be any that is launched against us.
Yes, let's hope not. It sounds like you're in a good position, so we wish you all the best in getting that certified you said a week from Monday, right?
Week from yesterday, yes, from Monday. They have 4 business days. Challengers have 4 business days. I don't think. I'm not sure. I mean, Governor Murphy ran in the primaries. He ran unopposed, and so people who had tried to qualify to run against him in the primaries did not get. They got kicked off the ballot. One for an obvious, what to me was an obvious fraudulent. Oh, I shouldn't use the word fraudulent because that implies criminality, and we don't know if that's going to be the case. But this particular candidate submitted 1,900 signatures, give or take, and it was found that 1,600, give or take, were of people whose last names began with either an A or a B. And knowing as I know what it's like to go stand on a boardwalk for 2 hours or go to a flea market or a farmer's market or a Palestine solidarity rally, and you talk to people, there's no way in heck you're going to get 75% of the people you talk to have just one or have last names that begin with any one of two letters. That's just not possible. So I don't know. There's some heightened awareness on the part of the Division of Elections. They're looking to make sure that something like that doesn't happen again. Like computer generated names rather than individually generated names. But so there might be a look at what we did. But as I said earlier, we had over 1,000 names that were on paper. So, that's hard. It's hard to fake those. And we didn't, obviously. So, yes, thank you for the good wishes. Thank you for good luck. And then if all goes well and we're certified Monday, then the campaign begins and continues in earnest, and we can step it up a notch. We don't have to say if certified, when certified. We just know that we're at liberty to just run a campaign.
So, what book recommendations do you have for our audience out there?
I spent I saw that question that you were going to ask it, and I spent a lot of time thinking about it. I have two recommendations. The first one of the best books ever that I've ever read, and it took me about 4 or 5 attempts to read it before I really sank my teeth into it, and then I couldn't let it go. It's called Kindred, Kindred, and it was written by an African American science fiction writer named Octavia Butler. And it is a story that when I finished reading it, I had to remind myself what year this was and where I lived and what was going on around me, because it was about somebody in the 21st century who just moved into a new house with her husband, but somewhere in the house there was a portal. Obviously, remember, it's science fiction. And this woman, 30-year-old woman or so, she was pulled back into slavery times. And she was initially called back to save a young white male child who had, don't remember if it was accidentally or on purpose, set fire to one of the rooms in the mansion. And she saved the boy. And then after the boy was saved, she was pulled back into the 21st century. And the whole rest of the book is of her shifting between the 21st century and the slavery times. And what made it so intense was the book was very realistic. And eventually, as part of the science fiction, she was descended from one of those people in the original scene where she went and saved the house from burning down, or the room from burning down. So it got very complicated and lots of tangles and twists. But it was just to the way slavery was described, the way the insight into people's minds, how they adjusted, how they dealt with it, and then looking at it with 21st century eyes. And it was just an amazing book. And as I said, when I finished it, I went to go get some dinner, and I pulled my car out of my garage, and I said, "Where am I? Is somebody going to chase me? Do I have to watch out for escaped people fleeing slavery? Do I have to watch?" It was so intense. So that's one. It's called Kindred by Octavia Butler. And then the other books I thought about were written by a Palestinian. His name is Ghassan Kanafani, which is going to be hard to spell, but I think it's Ghassan, Ghassan Kanafani, Khanafani, something like that, Kanafani. He was a writer for spokesperson for Palestinians. He had a very prestigious position for a while. I've forgotten exactly what it was. But in his mid to late 30s, after he had done his writing for the day, he and his niece, I think, got into their car to go home, and the car exploded. Someone had planted a bomb, and he lost his life really early, very prematurely. But his books, they're short. They're not really, I guess you'd call them novellas. And one was the one that I remember, two. One is Return to Haifa, which is a place that was inhabited by many Palestinians before 1948. And people were pushed out. The Palestinians were pushed out in 1948. And this book is about, or the story is about their return in 1967, with thinking that it was safe to return. And I will not talk about anything that happens, because if somebody were to read it, it would ruin it completely. But that was another book that I read. I read it in about 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours, short story, novella. I couldn't move for another hour or two. It was so powerful. And then he wrote another book called Men in the Sun, and I read that too. And it was about some Palestinians who were trying to escape from the occupied areas, and they hid away in a tanker truck, and encountered problems at the border. And I'm not going to say any more about that either. It's a book. It's a story. If you read, you'll never forget. And so those are my recommendations.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So how can people help your campaign? You're mentioning you're waiting for it to be certified. So whether now or after it gets certified, how can people New Jersey or
Yeah, a very good question. Thank you for the question. We've been having weekly meetings for about 6 weeks now on a Wednesday night. So one thing after this podcast today, I have a meeting at 7:00 with the campaign, and we have a Google form that you can fill out, that people can fill out if they go to our website. And I'll give you it's the exact wording of our website. But you fill out the Google form, and you can say how you'd like to volunteer and how you'd like to help out. We have a very large contingent of high school and college students helping out. It's a youth-led campaign because, as I mentioned to you earlier, these issues. These issues affect us all, but the people under the age of 25 or under the age of 35 feel it most of all, because they have their whole lives in front of them, so to speak. So people can go to Hoffman for GovNJ. That's HOFFMANFOR Gov GOVNJ, like in New Jersey, all one word, .com. Hoffman for GovNJ.com, and go to volunteer and fill out the Google form. explain how you could help. We need people to do research. We need people to go canvassing door to door. We need people to help design and activate continue to activate, increase our reach on social media. As you've said, you already have seen quite a few things on social media. So we're set. We have a minimum amount, a really good minimum amount, but we could always use more. We want to blanket the state. In fact, my lieutenant governor candidate, Heather Warburton, she lives in South Jersey in Atlantic County. I live up in Morris County, so people know her. She's highly visible in South Jersey. I'm highly visible here and visible throughout the state after last year's Senate run. But people want to get involved. We need local contacts, county contacts, regional contacts, people who could help set up campaign events, people who, as I said, could help us increase our social media reach, people to do research, comparing my platform, the Green Party platform, to Governor Murphy's platform and track record. What makes us different? We really need people to help with that. We need people to make donations to the campaign. We just sent out a fundraising appeal and a meme this morning. Do you know? I learned this year that in order to qualify for the debates, and there are now four independents and Chitterelli and Murphy, who are all ballot qualified candidates, barring some challenges to the four of us independents. For us all to be in the debates, or for any of us off the independent list to qualify to be in the debates, we have to raise. Do you want to guess how much money we have to raise? Should I put you on the spot like that?
That's a good question. I know I was listening to this one podcast and they were talking about at minimum for the federal level, it's 250 million, 10 million.
All right. This is not, the question isn't how much it takes to run a successful campaign, but in order for the Division of Elections to instantly qualify a candidate to participate in public debates, $490,000 needs to be raised to get instant qualification. We will also pressure politically because we don't believe that the monetary threshold is a fair and just way of determining who gets into these debates. If you're qualified to be on the ballot, it's our belief that you should be allowed into the debates. But we are trying to raise $490,000. And if we don't raise $490,000, we'll at least let people in New Jersey know how absolutely prohibitive and undemocratic the qualifications are for qualifying to participate in the debates. It should just be that you have a platform different from the Democrats and Republicans, and you should be allowed to participate in the debates. If you got your 800 plus signatures we started collecting our signatures in March and April. It took us several months to do this. If you have enough support and backing that you can get people to say, I want that person to be on the ballot, then my sense is that those candidates are owed an opportunity to explain to the public what their platform is. So anyway, you could help raise money. You could help make statements, write short letters to the editor or longer op-ed pieces about how the system is rigged to favor those with money, and people like us Greens who don't accept big money. I mean, that raising $490,000 from people who give $50 or $100, that's a very tall order. And it should also, well, it discourages people surely who are just starting out and who don't understand the system. So yeah, just go to our website, Hoffman for Gov NJ, all lowercase, all one word, .com, and fill out the volunteer form. Make a donation through PayPal, secure donation through PayPal. Reach out to the campaign. My campaign email is Hoffman for Governor 2021. It's Hoffman for, spelled out FOR, Governor 2021 at Gmail. Our Instagram account is, since I have a minute, I will give you the correct. I don't always have the ability to look.
I have it right here. Is it Hoffman for the people, right?
Yes, Hoffman for the people. And for Twitter, we're also on Twitter. The Twitter handle, do you have that too?
That I do not, unfortunately.
All right, I'll get that in just a moment. But the other thing is we're experimenting. First time. Our Twitter handle is, just a minute, Hoffman for the people, I think, as well, but I'll tell you exactly. Oh, man. That's why I usually don't do this, because they're all slightly different, and I don't want to give the wrong one. Hold on.
I can look it up afterwards, too. That shouldn't be a problem.
All right. I should have it memorized. The other thing is that, here we go. At Hoffman for New Jersey. So it's at Hoffman, then the number 4, then NJ. So it's Hoffman, all lowercase, the number 4, NJ for New Jersey.
Okay, got it.
Okay. And we have just started to experiment with TikTok and having some fun with that. It's a very different kind of platform for sure. But, we are very serious. We're very dedicated. We're very committed to running the best campaign possible. But we're also human and we like to have fun. So,
Sure.
So TikTok is a good way to express that.
Do you have an address username for TikTok?
That we must. Do I know what it is, though, is the next question.
My mom does not love me anymore.
No, okay, it is. No, I do not know what the TikTok handle is. Oh, wait, maybe here.
She said I have to buy a new home.
I don't know.
That's okay.
Search under either Madelyn Hoffman or Green Party of New Jersey, or send an email to me and we'll send you. I will ask my social media folks to tell me how we can be found on TikTok so you can follow us.
Okay, that is very good. That is good information for anybody that wants to help your campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for coming on this podcast today, and we wish you all the best with your campaign and any and all future endeavors.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And how will people be able to see this or hear it? Actually, it's not
on various Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the major podcast platforms. This goes.
Okay. And it's Free Press Media Press Inc. And when will it be available for people to see?
Today is Wednesday the 9th. God willing, I'm planning to get it processed tonight and out. We have it on every Tuesday and Thursday. So out tomorrow, God willing.
All right, and will you send me a link so I can promote it?
Of course, God willing, of course.
All right, so let me know. Send me the link when it's up and ready for people to listen. I'd really appreciate it, and
Excellent.
I do appreciate the opportunity to speak about this campaign that I'm very passionate about.
Excellent. All the best. Have a great day, Madelyn.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.